Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm sitting here wondering, does everyone miss me as much as I miss everyone? 60-40, 70-30 maybe? That's okay. And again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Next time you are applying for probably not a job, but maybe some volunteer work or something of that nature, I give you permission down on special skills that you inspire Buddhist monks, okay? And it would be a truth because I do. It really inspires me to come here week after week and see everybody really just in a place where they want to take care of the heart. So it's very important. So let us begin. And so one of the benefits to the mindfulness practice, mindful meditation, is we can begin to maintain a cool head and a warm heart. And especially through the ever-changing vicissitudes of life. Life is in a constant state of change, in all kinds of situations, people, places, things, no matter how near and dear, or acquaintances, or if it's anyone in our lives. Eventually, there's a time where nature runs its course, and then all that becomes otherwise. And so a wonderful thing about the practice is we're able to navigate through that in a much more peaceful place. Not to say that the ever-changing vicissitudes of life aren't challenging, but we don't get too moved too much where it becomes a big strain on the heart. We can navigate through these changing vicissitudes, but still have a little bit of serenity, a little bit of equanimity in the heart. And then we keep the head cool and try to put out the fires of greed, anger, and ignorance, which are called fires of the mind. And then when we have the fire of anger in the mind, who's the first one that gets burnt? We do. and then it burns everyone around us. And so what we do here each week is we come in and we just sit with ourselves for a little bit of time. And we bend back that beam of attention instead of going outwards, seeking out, looking out. We take the time to sit still and to take that beam of attention and we turn it inwards. And this mindfulness practice is called Satipatthana practice. And what that means is Sati Upatthana, which means we place our attention within. And so let's just take a moment to remind ourselves that this is the time for meditation. You've worked this into your schedule. And now is the time. We are here now. And so when all the worldly mind, our responsibilities and our duties start to pull your attention away, we just, in a clear, mindful way, we say, okay, now is not the time to plan and think about all the things we have to do or have done. Now is the time to just sit still and allow the heart and mind to become still and peaceful. It's not to say we are running away from life. It's actually quite the opposite of that. The more we are present, calm, peaceful, we are much more engaged in life. When listening to a dear friend, we are truly listening. When looking at something, we are truly seeing it. When smelling the lilacs or the roses, we are smelling the lilacs and the roses. When enjoying a good meal, we are enjoying a good meal. And so it's not a type of escape from reality. It's a practice that allows us to be much more present and aware of life. And so let's begin with a little determination. You say, now is that time, and I'm going to practice the best of my ability for this moment, at this time. And then also just take a moment to check in with the heart. And is there anything in the heart that I might be carrying that is maybe not the most skillful, not the most wise thing to be carrying in the heart? Whatever it may be. And just to acknowledge that for a moment, and in the light of conscious awareness, we say, okay, I'm just going to let that go just for this little while. And then if you wish, after the meditation, you can pick it up again. But when we do, try to notice you're picking it up in a different place, a little more calm, a little more peaceful, a little more relaxed. And then we can make wise choices. So let's begin with the whole body awareness. Just become aware of the whole body from the top of the head right down to the feet. And whatever tightness or tension that emerges in your awareness, just take a moment to relax and soften those tension points wherever they may be. And we just get the spine, the head and spine in a line, relax the shoulders. And just begin to settle into a nice, comfortable posture. And then we're going to try to maintain this whole body awareness for the remainder of the meditation and hopefully well into the day and your evening. And so in a very simple way, we're just going to do what is called a body scan or a body sweep. And this is just a technique where we move our attention through the body in a very simple way. And what we try to do is we hold our attention at that particular part of the body. Say it's the face and head. And we just let our attention rest there. And then any tightness or tension points you might see, maybe strong tension points, maybe some very subtle. But whatever emerges in your awareness, we make the conscious effort to relax and soften those tension points. So let's begin with the face and head. Just being aware of the forehead, the temples, and the eyes, relaxing, softening all those little muscles around the eyes, behind the eyes. And it's a good time to brighten the eyes with a nice smile springing from the heart. And it helps bring a little balance to the worrying and emotional eyes. And it softens with a nice bright smile. And if nothing comes to mind and you don't feel like you have something to be smiling about or feeling joyful about, just look at this very moment. We have the wonderful opportunity to practice meditation together, and our health is still good enough where we can move around and come to the hall and to sit down and make an effort to quiet the mind and cultivate the heart. It is a wonderful thing to smile about. Now let's move our attention to the nose and the cheeks, then the jaw. Make sure we're relaxing the jawbone, jaw muscles. Make sure we're not clenching our teeth. And just relax and soften the face and head. And now let's move to the neck and throat. And we just want to get a basic felt sense of this particular body part. Not getting too overly analytical, but just maintain a felt sense of the neck and throat. And relax and soften. Moving to the shoulders. And this is where we carry the weight of the world. So let's just take a moment to relax and soften the shoulders. Outer shoulders, the back of the shoulders. This is where we really utilize our in and out breathing, particularly the out breath. And the exhalation, we just want to relax the shoulders. And now let's go down the arms, upper arms, shoulders to the elbows. And the elbows to the wrists, the lower arms. And just notice whatever's noticeable. Maybe it's the contact of your arms on your leg. Maybe it's the clothing. Maybe it's the cool air. And relax and softening lower arms. Now let's move to our hands. Making sure we're not pressing our hands into our laps, that they're resting gently. And relax and soften all those little muscles in the palms, the fingers, back of the hand. And making sure the hands are nice, relaxed, and open. Going back up, lower arms. And the upper arms. And now to our shoulders and upper torso, front and back. Let's just take a couple of extra moments here in silence to really relax and soften the upper torso. I always find this exercise very soothing, very relaxing. Breathing in, calming upper torso. Breathing out, relaxing, calming upper torso. Now let's move our attention to the lower torso, front and back. Making sure we are relaxing and softening our abdomen, stomach muscles, lower back muscles. Now hips and thighs. And breathing in, relaxing, calming, softening hips and thighs. And then breathing out, calming, relaxing hips and thighs. And now to our upper legs, from the hips and thighs to the knees. Very large muscles, big bones, tendons. We have lots of miles on these legs. So let's take a moment to relax and soften the upper legs. And now the lower legs from the knees to the ankles. And now to the feet. And relax and soften the feet, all those little muscles. And the arches, the side of our feet, top and toes. And now let's expand our awareness so it includes the whole body. That is from the bottom of our feet right up to the top of our heads. And just begin to settle the mind and stabilize mind's attention in whole body awareness. Just getting familiar with that felt sense of the whole body in the sitting posture. And it's a good time if you have a little discomfort from sitting or need to make an adjustment. Check in with our posture. And while maintaining whole body awareness, if you notice, what is the main phenomenon that you become aware of when sitting here with whole body awareness in the mind? The movement of the body as we inhale and exhale. So it's likened to if you were sitting at the head of a water cove or an ocean cove and you were right at the edge of the sand, right where the water meets the sand, and you're looking across the top of the water and you see the horizon. And that's a very open and spacious awareness of the water and the sky. That is like the whole body awareness. It's very open, very spacious. But at the same time, you're also aware of each little wave as it comes in, it rises, and it falls right in front of you. And that is being aware of the movement of the body as we're inhaling and exhaling. So let's just take a moment to try to steady the mind. Whole body awareness. The rise of the inhalation and the cessation of the exhalation. And this next exercise is very important. As we are breathing in, we silently and inwardly know this is the in-breath. Silent inner knowing. When breathing in, this is the in-breath. And when breathing out, we say to ourselves, or we silently say to ourselves, this is the out-breath. And this is an exercise that allows us to strengthen mind's attention and awareness. It's the exercise that allows us to cultivate the mental quality of attention and awareness. This is where we can begin to see and know what we are paying attention to. And that is very, very important. So in breathing in, silent inner knowing, this is the in-breath. And when breathing out, and at the same time, with each and every breath, we make the conscious effort to relax the body. Breathing in, making sure the body is staying calm and relaxed. And when breathing out, calming the whole body. And so this is a twofold experience. Not only are we allowing the body to become very calm, relaxed, and peaceful, but we are also calming our minds, our mental activity from past, future, thinking, planning, liking, not liking. And so we are also calming the mind. And so we're doing 4 exercises all at the same time. And it may be challenging sometimes, but it becomes very, very whole. It's a very wholesome practice. And so when the mind wanders, we have that recognition that the mind had gone off into a fantasy, imagination, or back to a memory image. When that happens, just that smiling recognition. Ah, I see you, wandering mind. It's like a wild elephant that wants to just thrash through the forest. So when that happens, we come back. We turn our attention away from the distraction, come back to the whole body, movement, sharpen the knowing mind, and relax. So if you wish, let's practice this in silence until the bell. Okay, well done, everyone. So if I may, I would like to continue talking about what we call the 5 hindrances to meditation. And again, they are applicable to both on the cushion and then off the cushion. So just a little refresher. And they are called hindrances because they do just that. They block and they hinder us from developing a calm mind or a warm heart. And so they are, when the mind begins to get caught up in thinking about some sensory experiences, thinking about ice cream, thinking about the glass of wine later, or a meal, or some pleasant experience from the past, right? Aversion, the mind becoming dull, lethargic, kind of drowsiness, restlessness and worry, and then doubt. And if we, a good way to begin to recognize them is in the way the energy of the mind, in the way it kind of moves. And these are all obviously in modern terms, Western psychological terms, we can call them emotions, right? Desire is an emotion, anger and aversion is emotion, sadness is an emotion, restlessness and worry, those are emotions, and doubt. So when we start thinking about some pleasant sensory experience, the mind is sort of reaching out, it's grasping for something, some type of desire, right? Aversion is pulling away, right? The mind just wants to avoid. Drowsiness and feeling lethargic, if we have that sinking feeling. The mind gets very dull, we're awake, but we're not really too aware of anything. And it also has a physical component. The body will start to feel very heavy, and what happens next? We fall asleep, right? Very common. Restlessness and worry is the opposite of that. The mind is very energetic, right? But it's not focused. Thinking about that, going from here, going from there. It's like a ping pong ball. And doubt is like an oscillation of mind. I don't know if I can do this, I'm getting too old, or I don't know, this teacher doesn't make any sense to me, or whatever it might be, right? Yeah, but I know it's good for me, I should be doing it, I do like it, but I don't know, I could do 101 other things on a Thursday afternoon, right? So that's the oscillation of the mind. So we talked a little bit about the first one. And now the second one, if I may, just talk a little bit about what is called aversion. We call it vyapada. So when we look, well, let me take one step back. When, as part of the traditional mindfulness practice, in here, we do a lot of the mindfulness of breathing, right? That is just one small part, an important part, very, very important part, a foundational part of the mindfulness practice. That's like the foundation in the beginning. And then we start to become mindful of the different sensations of the body. Like an example, when we do the body scan, when we look to see if there's any tightness or tension and we relax, we do, there's an exercises that we do where we pay attention to the body and we try to clearly see and identify or recognize if things feel pleasant or if things feel unpleasant or kind of neutral, right? We're sensual beings, right? The body is a living organism and we're constantly being stimulated by our environment. Light comes to the eyes, sound comes to the ears, right? And then so therefore, we have 3 basic experiences. Things either feel pleasant, or they feel unpleasant, or they feel kind of neutral. And so why would we want to take any time or put any effort into being aware of this aspect of our experience, right? Because that's what this mindfulness practice does. We make the effort to begin to see the basic aspects of our very own experience. So why would we do that? Well, we see something very, very important. When something feels very pleasant, whether it's in the moment or whether we're thinking about something from the past or we're thinking about something in the future, right? How does the mind, we have the thought, how does the mind react to any pleasant experience? It grabs on and it wants more, right? Who doesn't like to feel good? Everybody likes to feel good. There's a big difference, though, between pleasure and happiness. Happiness and pleasure are two different things. I'm going to use a couple of very fancy philosophical terms, right? Eudaimonia and hedonia. Hedonia, hedonic pleasures, pleasure born of the senses, right? There is a degree of happiness associated with that. Feels good. Nothing wrong with that, right? So we're trying to bring awareness to this aspect of the experience. However, if your happiness is completely dependent on that, what kind of happiness is that? What happens when we can't experience pleasant sensations? We're sad, we're depressed, right? Or if we can't, right? Eudaimonia is a spiritual happiness. It's an inner joy and inner contentment and inner happiness that is not dependent on any type of sensual experience, sensory experience, right? That's the difference between pleasure and happiness. So this part of this mindfulness practice, what we're doing is beginning to bend back that beam of attention instead of running towards the things we love and want and desire, or away from the things we don't like or don't want, right? Everything's like and dislike. You got those buttons on the what do they call it? Facebook, right? Used to be called Facebook. Like and don't like, don't like. It's like everybody's liking and don't liking, right? We know very well what we like in the world. Everybody knows that very clear, and we know what we don't like, right? Well, who's the person that likes and doesn't and don't like? What's the nature of that? That's a different story. Right? So what we're doing is beginning to establish mindfulness of our very own basic experiences. So aversion and anger, when it comes up in the mind, it's like a fire, right? What's happening? What's happening when we get angry or mad? Right? If you think of a situation, maybe somewhat recently, or you still probably get mad over a situation that happened 40 years ago, maybe 60 years ago for some of us, right? What's going on there? What are we doing? Oh, well, because they did this, or they did that, or whatever it might be, right? And there could be some truth to that. People can do some pretty horrible things, right? But why are we getting mad? I'll share a personal story with you. When I first started to do a lot of meditating and learning about the mindfulness practice, I was practicing just enough to experience a strong emotion and not react, right? When emotions come up, what usually happens? They lead to behavior. If we don't catch it on time, it leads to some sort of behavior. Whether we say something, some emotional speech, or maybe sometimes we want to really strangle someone, and maybe sometimes we do. I hope not, right? So it always leads to a type of behavior, right? So I've been practicing, and it was at the end of a work day. My background is in horticulture. I worked on a couple of the biggest tree farms and nurseries in the country. one on the East Coast and one up on Solvay Island, Bailey Nursery. I was there for a little while. And I had just started working at this particular company. And I got a call on the radio, and somebody was looking for the dimensions of a Green Valley boxwood. They wanted to know how big, how high, and how wide it got, right? And then so I gave the dimensions, and they were off. I had the dimensions of a Valley Green boxwood. The 6-inch difference, right? And so at the end of the day, in the time clock room on our way out, one of the other employees was starting to, talk a little bit about it and give me a hard time. You shouldn't be answering, acting like you know when you don't know. And I was just like, and I got mad, very angry, But it came up, and I said, okay, it's the end of the day, okay. But my mindfulness kicked in. It said, okay, anger's coming up, kept, relax. And then I went home. And at that time, I was kind of living like a monk anyway. I wasn't a monk yet, but I had a very simple life. I was single. My apartment was like my temple. I didn't listen to music. I was very much living like a monk. And so what I did was I made that what we call kamatana. Kamatana is like a workplace, like something you reflect on, something you look at. So that became my reflection for the weekend. And I would sit there and I was just reflecting on this. Why did I get so angry? And the first things that came up in my mind was, well, he's going through a divorce. He drinks too much, right? Which is true. It was true. That wasn't a lie, a falsehood, right? But I knew in my heart that really wasn't the answer. It's what my mind was telling me. I said, yeah, but even though that's true, why did I get angry? Why did I get mad? It took 3 days, but finally I got to it. And even though intellectually we understand this, it was completely different when I saw it with an honest, clear mind, right? Completely different, completely liberating. It was like, right? Because I was worried about, I want people to know my new job, how much I know, how much of a nurseryman I am, and all my past experiences. And I don't want them to know that I was 6 inches, right? So it was directly related to me, the sense of self, my ego. Since that reflection and that time, and I don't have an anger type personality by nature. Some people are anger types. We have different kinds of people. And I'm not an angry one to begin with. But of course, I would get angry sometimes, and not like raging angry, but a little annoyed. And since then, I haven't felt anything remotely close to that. And if I do find myself getting a little annoyed with something, I instantly know what's going on, regardless. There's like, what do they call that, spiritual axiom kind of thing, right? It's like, and it has nothing to do, person, place, thing, what's said. So what's going on when anger comes up? We're reacting to something seen, heard, smelt, taste, or touch. And it is of what nature? I don't like. I don't like what they said to me. I don't like what they're doing. I don't like what this particular party is doing. I don't like what my sister-in-law is saying this to me, right? It all has to do with me not liking. And so this is the hindrance that we're talking about. It is an aversion, a dislike, an annoyance. Sometimes it's very subtle. Sometimes it's very strong. And what's great about the mindfulness practice is we start to see how much aversion we have in the mind towards almost everything. So that's the push and pull of the mind. We can call that the main centrifugal drags of the mind. the main centrifugal drags of the mind, meaning the mind is constantly putting a lot of energy into one direction or the other, running towards what we like and running away from what we don't like. And so we're going to take a few weeks to talk a little bit about this, but one thing that is central to all of the hindrance practice is the first thing we do is we become aware. Because where's the anger? The anger's not out here. The anger's in here. And like we've talked about before, the content of the mind always expresses itself through feeling tones of the body, right? So when anger comes up, that means we're not attending to something very wisely. Something had happened, whether it's a memory, maybe one of our constructs, and we got to the point where we say, I don't like. And the anytime that we're associating with things we don't like, how do you feel? Pretty crappy, right? Yeah. So the first thing we do is turn our attention away from whatever it is that's going on up here that it causes the anger. Well, what do we do with it? Bring it to the whole body. How does my body feel right now? Anger has a very strong felt sense, right? When anger comes up, very strong. There's a huge chemical reaction in the body. The body's flooded with all kinds of things. Cuts off you can't process food. You feel the heat rises. Body gets very tense, right? So, first thing we do is we just relax. Take a moment to relax. And this is beneficial for a number of ways. For one, it doesn't lead to an emotional reaction through speech, right? And some of you probably know better than me, right? All it takes is a few words, and there's family members that won't talk to each other for decades, all because of that one thing they said at Christmas Eve, right? Right? That was driven by an emotion, right? So next week what we'll do, so that's the main central practice, is when you feel that is happening, annoyance, agitated with something, turn your attention away from that, because you're thinking about something, and is that wise or skillful? No, it's not. Turn it away and then do these relaxation techniques, right? So I think I will leave you at that. But before we wrap up, if I may just have a couple of minutes of your attention. I brought with me today, I don't like saying students because they're like my friends. We're journeying together on the spiritual path. So I have my friend with me here, and this is Erica, and she can come up here in just a second. And what she's doing is she's going to a Buddhist monastery to become a Buddhist chaplain. So they do have Buddhist chaplaincy now. It's a relatively new concept in Buddhism. We all know what chaplains are in the other faiths, but this is a Buddhist chaplain. So what I would like to do, I thought to bring her here and just to say hello and introduce herself to some of you. And so what I'll do is just give her the mic for a few minutes. You just want to come up, say hello, and share your experience. Is that okay? All right. Thank you.
Yeah. I knew he was going to pull something like this. So maybe I'll just share briefly what Buddhist chaplaincy is. Thank you. I mean, it's beautiful to be here with all of you. It's a 2-year journey I'm on, and when I come out of that, I'll have the skills to be in places like Mary's Wood. I'll have the skills to be in hospitals and in hospice and palliative care. You can do Buddhist chaplaincy on the streets with the unhoused. Chaplaincy there's a form of eco-chaplaincy that's happening right now. There's many, many ways that you walk alongside. And in the past, chaplaincy has mainly been from the monotheistic traditions. As Bhante Patago said, it's now relatively new within the last 10 years. I'm currently a hospice and palliative care chaplain at a very small, very rural hospital in Washington. And so I go out into the homes, and I sit alongside anyone who wants it, but not everybody does. For myself, I can say that reflection, what's the word that you use for reflection? Kamatana. I do a lot of kamatana in this work. It is primarily a huge growth for me as an individual, as a Buddhist practitioner, as a person on my own journey, and knowing I too will die. And that has been a very humbling experience. I could say a lot more, but I'm not sure. Do you have anything you were thinking of you wanted me? Okay. If anyone wants to ask me more questions, I am very happy to answer them. But it's lovely to be here with all of you. Thank you so much.
Okay, my friends, if you care to join me, we can end in the usual way. Hopefully our minds are a little cooler and the heart is a little warmer, and we are abiding in a place of some comfort. We are feeling a little more relaxed. And so what we do is we really utilize this opportunity to really open the heart so that it includes all living beings. And and how do we do this? Well, we know, like oneself, all living beings just have a desire to be truly happy. So if you wish, you could repeat after me. And more than the words, it's really a deep, sincere wish springing from the heart. So we put our lotus buds at heart center, and we say, may all beings be well. May all beings be happy. And may all beings be peaceful. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.